Hi, I'm Sherrod Brown, United States Senator from Ohio, one of the great auto states in our great country. Special thanks to Bob King, to General Holyfield, to all UAW officers, board members, and activists. A special thanks to the hardworking men and women from the United Auto Workers in my state of Ohio who are there, Ken Lortz, and the leaders back home. We know what's happened in our country in the last 5 years. The 2010 elections, in large part, we thought they were about jobs. Instead, we've seen in my state, in Wisconsin, all across the country, we've seen vicious attacks on organized labor. They've gone after public employee pensions. They've gone after public employee collective bargaining rights. They've gone after private sector workers through right to work, through prevailing wage, through all the kinds of attacks on labor we haven't seen the likes of for decades. In Ohio, in 2011, thanks to the UAW and other private sector unions who coalesced with public sector workers and people of faith in their churches and temples, consumer groups, activists, civil rights organizations, fought together and opposed Issue 2, the legislation that Governor Kasich had rammed through the legislature in Ohio to take away collective bargaining rights. It was the first time in American history, I believe, where collective bargaining rights were on a statewide ballot. We beat it back, thanks to the UAW and other trade unionists, we beat it back with 61%. We also know, going back to 2009, what President Obama, the UAW, and the auto industry did together to fight back. We know that major politicians in this country thought that we should just let GM and Chrysler just fall into bankruptcy and maybe things would get better. What I do know is that the proud men and women of the UAW came together, understanding in my state alone, 800,000 jobs are dependent on the auto industry. And what we saw in Ohio, what we saw with GM, what we saw with Chrysler, what we saw with Ford was an industry fighting back. The untold story of that auto rescue that would not have happened if the men and women of the UAW didn't stand up and fight for it, number one. And number two, understand that you made sacrifices, something that some conservative politicians don't like to acknowledge. The sacrifices made by auto workers and their families, the sacrifices made by auto communities around the state is why we've had this huge success from the auto rescue. And one other point I'd like to make is in Toledo, Ohio, where the Jeep Wrangler is assembled, prior to the auto rescue, only about 50% of components, manufactured components that went into the Jeep Wrangler, only about 50% of those components were domestic sourced. Today, thanks to Ken Lortz and the UAW and the work that we all did together, more than 75% of those components are made in the U.S. So we know now that we're seeing manufacturing, especially auto manufacturing, lead the way. For 12 years, from 1997 to 2009, manufacturing declined in this country year after year after year. Since 2010, because of the auto rescue, we've now seen in my state of Ohio and in every state just about around the country, we've seen manufacturing job growth almost every single month. It's the ticket to the middle class. It's why I'm proud always to be supported by the UAW. It's why I have the back of the UAW, that it's the proud men and women of the United Auto Workers that has helped to build this country, that has helped to provide a middle class, and that has given us such a prosperous America. For that, I'm grateful, and I thank all of you.